So here we go as we take one more bite of this elephant here. Today we're going to be finishing up running all this piping and wire chases and everything in there. You can see here these are the little templates. That template I'm kneeling on there is going to be for the rear live well, and the outboard one there is going to be for the live release well. And what I'm trying to do there is I've put those on top of the deck board so that when I drill the holes out, everything will match up, and I've got reference marks and all, and so hopefully you can kind of see how all that comes together. But I kind of had to notch those templates so that I could work up underneath them, because the way they were, they kind of filled the space. So, you know, this is kind of a little, it's a little bit of a busy video because we're going to run through a lot of it on time lapse, but you know, this here is that's going to be the chase that I'm going to use to run the fuel line back there to that little mechanical room. And you can see everything in here I'm using, you know, schedule 40 pipe. There's a lot of these conduit long sweeps, and I use that. And then here in the center you can see, kind of get an idea of how I've tried to orient all of those pipes and chases and all. And I've used it in my drawing, how I've got enough space for my batteries and all. You know, I've got enough for this live well on the front side, and we'll talk about that in a little while. But also, like, I have enough room with that configuration in the console to have 3 batteries underneath there if I ever need to. I don't think I'm gonna have that much, but you can see that's kind of the concept. And we're gonna go back and forth here because it took a little while. So these are the little water lines. This is, you know, as I've gone through here and designed it in the drawing and kind of went through it, I changed a little bit, but by and large it stayed the same. Those little lines are where you know, through the seat cocks and the through hulls and all, they're going to be picking up the water, and that'll be pumping it in here. I'm trying to size my pipe, and all these are the fittings that go from a barb fitting to the hose. And you know, I ran those conduits long there out of those transom wells, and I was just cutting them off about 1.5 inches above that, and it was really easy to just lay that 2x4 there and let that multi-tool kind of do that. And so now this is kind of one of the more difficult parts, is I'm trying to get this drain for this live well. And remember, that's a template, so I'm trying to orient it properly. And because I'm gonna have to build that live well, have a hole in the floor, and actually glue the fitting down into this pipe that's going to have to be up underneath there. So all that's got to be done with with the deck in place. So that's why it's important to have that template, to make sure that I also build it, and I'm going to use that template to drill the hole in the bottom of the live well and reference all of that. So kind of got all that playing together, and you'll see how we're going to recess the drain and all that. So it's gonna be pretty complicated in that aspect, but that's what all this is about. That's what I'm doing. This took me a lot longer than it should have, just because I'm trying to get everything to line up properly. So that drain that you can see in the template, that's going to actually be the bottom of the live well. Then you'll see that pipe come out and go forward and come up. Well, that's actually where they overflow. So if you think about the live well, it's going to have water constantly coming into it, and then it overflows. So that's where it'll overflow and drain out through the through hole and the transom there. So both of those drains will be the same. They'll go out through the same pipe. And then on the other side, we'll talk about it here, is there's 2 drains, two through holes that go out the transom. One will be for that live release well, and the other one will be for that forward live well. So just little by little, picking away at this thing. It is pretty staggering, the details and all that I had to go through, and I struggled with it. I'm going to tell you, I struggled, and I'm glad to be beyond this. Kind of fought it, and it's been a little while since we put out a video, so we apologize for that. But we've been doing some fishing and other stuff, but we're going to try and stay steady on it here, and just check it out. And here we're going to pop back in here in just a little while. So yeah, started struggling with this forward drain a little bit because there was a couple different ways I could go. I kind of had it where it was coming out 90 degrees to the side like that, and I really didn't want that water coming out there at a 90 degree because I wanted to make sure that it drained properly. So I'm considering this, that, and the other, and the fittings I have. So eventually what I wound up doing, I think you'll see it here in a little while, is I actually come in here and I cut a hole and I figure out how to pipe it using 45. So that's what you're going to see me do right there. But I'm trying to orient all of those pipes. I mean, on that, what's your left side of your screen now is I got a 2-inch chase going to the transom, and then the drain and the pressure water coming in, and then I also have the forward drain and a bunch of stuff coming in there. You're going to see a lot of that, but that's what I'm working on here, is getting this template in place. Same thing with that rear live well. This forward live well is I've got to get it oriented properly so that when I build the console, the live well and everything, I run the drain out the bottom of it and it'll drop down and glue into that 90 that's in the bottom. So there'll actually not be any pipe sticking out, because I want that bulkhead fitting to actually be recessed in the bottom of the live well. So that's the only way to do that. I can't glue that piping all in there without having the live well built in the console, and because the live well is going to be built into the console, this, that, and the other, you can just see it gets kind of complicated. So it's as I kind of mentioned this from the beginning, you know, we had a blank canvas, we had no wires, no pipes, no chases, no plumbing, no nothing. And then, you know, here we are. Look at all this crap in the bottom of this boat, you know, something for just a simple flats boat, right? A little skiff. I could have made life a whole lot easier on me if I wouldn't have had all these aspirations to make it as difficult. But, you know, there you can kind of see where all the holes are, the drains, and so, you know, once we glue this floor down, you can see those two holes closest to the transom. Those are where those drains for the live wells and the live release well, you know, we're going to have to make sure we hit those marks exactly right. So there's going to be a little bit of play, which you can kind of see how I have them marked out to have a little bit of play. I've got a little room, and I've actually, you know, right there decided I'm going to kind of cut those holes a little bigger and give me some play. So it's been like a chess match in a struggle, and I cut a lot of time out of just sitting there looking and figuring out problems. But you know, what I would advise anybody is just take your time, you know, plan it all out, do it right. And if it's not right, stop, back up, cut it out. It's all wood. You know, you can, like I had holes that I didn't use that you'll see me come back in here and fill with. I kept a bunch of those plugs that I drilled out, just thickened epoxy those back in place, seal all of it back up, and you're good to go going forward. What I'm working on here is I'm also, just like the cockpit where I have it draining into the bilge, I'm also going to drain that little mechanical well that's, you know, out there on the starboard side of this area I'm working here. It's where I'm going to have my fuel filter and maybe some other mechanical stuff, you know, eventually power pole pump or whatever. But I want to drain all that to the bilge so that I have a dry floor. And then, you know, you can see here I'm just, you know, kind of got everything run. I'm drilling up, you know, cleaning up all where I've cut my pipe and done all that. Just trying to vacuum everything up, because, you know, the next step after this is to start pouring foam and stuff. So I may talk about that a little bit here at the end, but you know, it's just so much nicer when you get done with something to vacuum it all up and start cleaning. All right, well, kind of ran through that, let that roll, getting all this plumbing done, getting it all cleaned up. That's probably the last thing you saw. And so now we got all this stuff situated, it's all plumbed in. Well, now I'm going to come in here where all these penetrations are
And I'm gonna run some thickened epoxy. Let me, you can see that barb fitting there. That's an 1.5 inch barb fitting. So that whole pipe there will connect to these two drains for the cockpit and all the floor, the sole. That's our fuel line, and this is our wire chase for the front for trolling motor or whatever. But let me see if I can walk down through here without breaking my neck again. Yeah, we just lost a GoPro. Yeah, maybe it's okay. So this is the idea. This was that template I cut. And remember, I put that on top of the board. Maybe I'll show that here. I put that on top of the board, and then I drilled through it and the other one at the same time so that those would match up. What's critical is this piece right here, which this will be the drain for the live well, but it also enables me to get that in there and get it situated. So now as I come in here and I epoxy all these holes, hopefully that'll stay, it'll stay in that configuration, so when we go to put the floor and all down, it's easy to put it all through. So kind of walking through here, you can see this black line is that drain line coming from the front, and also you can see barb fittings on there. So there'll be a short piece of flexible hose. You'll see me cut that here. I'm gonna run it long. On both of those connections, you'll see double hose clamps. So anything below the deck gets double stainless steel hose clamps. So this is all the chaos going towards the back. And there's a lot going on here. Where the fuel line comes in from the front, that'll be a drain for this compartment that's right here. The 3/4, the water pressure lines, the 1.5 inch overflow, the 1.5 inch drain for the live well that's going to be right here. This is the water line for the other pump that'll pump water to this live release well and also to the front live well. You see it runs all the way, but you can see as much pipe is in there as what I was talking about, the height, where you have to, let me see if I can get down in here. All right, back up into this one. You can see where you really got to worry about how your elevations are, because you only got so much height on this board and all those pipes running through there. You got to have room for them. So that's kind of the program. So all of that's done, and I'm going to pop out here. All right, so this will be in the motor well or the bilge. This will be where the bilge pump. So this will be a drain where the cockpit and that forward compartment drains into the bilge, and this will be just for this compartment right here, which will be kind of be the mechanical hatch where the fuel filter, other stuff like that. And these are all the wire chases, and that'll be the drain for the main live well here. You can see this is where the through hulls will go. On those through hulls we'll have a seacock valve, and then we'll come off of that with a barb with the pressure fitting, and we'll probably loop that hose in here to get it to connect up. I haven't glued any of these fittings on back here because I want to make sure I solidify these pipes and all, and then cut them as short as I can. The bottom one down there will be the drain for the forward live well and the live release well, or vice versa. This is for the live release well, and that'll be for the forward live well. So everything has its own drain now. So kind of give you an idea. That's what it looks like. So now we're going to come in here, like all these pieces here, like this. There won't be any fittings on this piece. This is just going to drain out in here. So we're going to run a piece of a bit of thickened epoxy around here, like a fillet, on all of these pieces. And you're going to see me at some point, like I'm going to put this floor piece in here to get all of these held in the configuration they need to. And then I will come over here on the back side and put the fillet so that it holds everything in place, pop these off, and do this side. So that's the plan.
All right, now I will say that mixing this, what I have here is mix some thickened epoxy, and what I'm trying to do is just kind of pull a fillet or fill in all the space and kind of just glue in all those pipes everywhere that they penetrate a bulkhead or they penetrate a stringer. You know, the stringer's running fore and aft and the bulkhead's going port to starboard. Everywhere that they cross or everywhere that we drilled out, you know, I've already come in there and sealed that with neat epoxy, meaning it's just mixed thinned epoxy. But now everywhere that there's a partition, everywhere a pipe goes through, to keep those stable and to try and make, my goal is for every compartment in here to be watertight, so that if I ever do have an issue, it's isolated to that one compartment. Because the way that this boat is put together with this plywood, and you have that whole grid system, there's a lot of individual compartments. So hopefully, if every single one of them is quote unquote watertight, if I ever have an issue, it'll be isolated to that one spot. So that's why I've gone through the trouble here, and not only just painting where I drilled out with neat epoxy, but I'm also coming back with thickened epoxy and trying to seal every one of them. And I'm going to tell you, it's tough because of the way that pipe is. And if you've never messed with thickened epoxy, it's like trying to spread peanut butter, and because of those rounded surfaces, and you don't have good access everywhere, it is quite a bit of a pain. So that's kind of why you see me struggling. And I'll go back here and I'll show you a little bit of it, but I'm just warning you, it's as much as I want things to be pretty and nice and done well, I did keep in mind all this is below the deck. It should hopefully never see the light of day after this time. The purpose, we went for function over fashion here, and the purpose is to make everything watertight and to keep all those pipes and hoses and everything in place. So some of this is not the prettiest work I've ever done, and I'm going to show you that. But I did try here in the motor well where it would be, seen at least a little bit, even though, it's going to be below a hatch and everything else. But I wanted it to be fairly clean, and we may spend a little time trying to dress that up a little bit as we go forward. So that's all I'm doing right here, and then we'll let you know what's happening next. Here we go. Got all these little fillets in here, and it is not the prettiest work I've ever done. Some of these, with the way they're angled and everything, I had to kind of get in there with my finger. But I got all of these done. I got all the fittings done. You can see, like I said, it's not the best work I ever done. I got my plugs in there, so that'll be all my plugs are all done up. And so, like I said, it's not the prettiest work I've ever done, but you can see hopefully what we're trying to do here. So here we are in the bilge here. I wanted to show a little bit better. I came in here on all four of these pipes. Once again, this is the drain for the cockpit floor and the forward compartment. This will be the drain for that little mechanical, and these are the water supply lines. We'll have those fittings on them. But I tried to get in there and pull, pretty clean fillets around these. And then I'll figure out where I want all those to be and cut them off. So that the bottom ones will be, they're just going to be open drains just so water can drain in here. I'll probably keep them a little proud. And then we'll just, I got to cut these long enough to be able to put a fitting on it. So that's all we'll do there. And that's kind of everything under the deck, I think. And the next thing will be foam. So I've gone back and forth about pouring the foam, like putting the floor down and then pouring the foam under it. But I've got some connections that I don't want to do that. I'm gonna stick with the probably the tougher way, and I'm gonna pour it and then cut it flat because I want to be able to see how it goes in
and I think it, you know, it's going to show better if I do it with the tops off. I want to make sure that I get total feel and everything's complete, and I want to be able to measure it and see how it goes. So that's what I'm going to do there. And you know, hopefully we can get the foam put in, and then we can put the floor on, and then start working on the top sides, and then we're going to start working on the console and the bait wells and the live wells and all that. So all that's going to be coming. So I'm going to try and keep working on it.